All right, I think we will begin. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeff Narbrook. Thank you for joining us for this little virtual session where we can give you some final last-minute information and, importantly, have a chance for you to ask us some questions more in real time. I am joined by two of my colleagues, Charles Peel. Hello, Charles.
Hello, thanks for coming, everyone.
All right, Charles will be watching your questions coming through the chat and helping to moderate. And Tim Schwartz, who is also here, although he's sitting out in the work area where it might be noisier. Tim, you can say hello, but if you don't, that's fine too. Very well. Let's get started. A little bit about how this will work. Get my slides over here. All right. So we can't see you, we can't hear you. What we're going to be doing to gather your feedback, questions, comments is through the Q&A feature in this tool. So there should be like a little chat icon with question mark on the right side of the screen. You'll type your questions there and press send. So one of the ways, well, the way we're going to take your attendance right now is to have you type your name into the Q&A bar and send it, and that way we will know that you've attended.
Now that assumes they haven't already done so. Folks have been really good about telling me they're here.
That's right.
So
you can, yeah, if you've already done it, we'll capture that. And there is a little bit of a lag, so I will see when they'll start coming in. They time delay this software in case Tim starts swearing or something, then we can bleep it out. So let's see here.
Hey, Jeff, I just say people that signed in that are anonymous, if they just said hi and didn't put their name in, please have them put their
Thank you. If you didn't explicitly put your name in, so please do so. And I see that some people those are coming in. Very good. Okay. And I will go back at the end. Anybody who we didn't have their name typed in there, if you had any issues, we'll be in touch to say, hey, it looks like you missed this, and if you were actually on, you can let us know at that time. So without any further ado, I'm going to continue. Please just type in your questions as we go. I will pause periodically for Charles to tell me what he sees for questions. First thing is, things are going really well in terms of our hope and strategy that as many people who can vote by mail do so. So you see on the screen, this is now, I don't know, maybe a week old already. At this point in time in the state primary, for this primary, we've sent out 70,000 ballots, where you can see in 2018, it was only 6,000. So this is orders of magnitude greater. We are seeing exactly what we were hoping to see, which is a really big change in voter behavior and having a lot and most people be voting by mail. So that's gone well. Obviously, we're still watching that very closely. You can see for your precinct by what the early voting turnout's been and so forth by going to our website and to the election results page. Go election results and then there's data and results, and then you click on voter turnout and you'll see that information there. So check it out, but so far so good. We are not expecting long lines, a huge turnout in person on election day. Of course, there may be some local variations based on precinct, but that is still what we expect to see. You have your 2020 manual online. We didn't print a copy for everybody because you're not coming in for class, and that actually saves us quite a bit of money, which we need to be saving these days. So we can't provide you an advanced paper copy. We don't have thousands of them printed like we normally would. We will be sending them, of course, out on election day, 1 copy per precinct, and I think those are going in the head judge pickup, the brown supply envelope. So you'll if you're doing the pickup, you will get it in advance at that time. Otherwise, please download and use the online version. Until then, I do have a number of updated things in there. So I think it's always wise, if you don't actually read the content, to at least familiarize yourself with how it's laid out and organized so that you can find what you need on election day. One thing we're asking is, if you're having any doubts, questions, or concerns about your service due to COVID, maybe you're still thinking about that, please let us know ASAP. We are in a fairly a tough position when our leadership judges drop out at the last minute. We will absolutely respect whatever decision you make. We understand. We just want to be in on that conversation if you are having it, to let us know, and then we can figure out what we need to do. So if you're having any doubts, please let us know ASAP. I will say, kind of on that point, right now we are still doing really strong on election judge recruitment. We are getting, we're meeting our goals, we're meeting our numbers. We have not seen a mass group of people dropping out or saying I won't serve, and of course there absolutely have been people who've said that, but we are not, things are looking good right now, so we hope they stay that way. All right, before election day, we need you to connect with your counterpart, and it might be counterparts if you're in a combined polling place. More on that in a minute, but everybody has a little bit of more work to do before the election because of the new polling place layouts we need to do with social distancing, all the more so in our combined polling places where a lot of those might be new buildings and there's a lot more setup and thought you'll need to put into that. For those of you who are in combined polling places, and remember that's if your assignment has 2 ward precinct numbers in them instead of just 1. Here's how the structure works again. You'll have 1 head judge and 2 assistant head judges at those sites. And the idea there is that each assistant will kind of oversee 1 precinct's machines and paperwork. And that's really an administrative concept I'm talking about. As far as the team goes, there's no distinction between the team, right? It's 1 team. They can rotate between any of the tables. We'll have that 1 poll book station where everybody checks in, and then you'll have separate ballot tables, separate tabulators, separate auto marks elsewhere in the room, okay? But as far as all the paperwork you need to do, getting the machines going, why don't you split that up between the assistants to make that easier? How will you know who your counterparts are and the rest of your team? That will be available on July 28, which is Wednesday. So we will activate the list, which is in the portal, and I believe we'll send an email out when that's ready. So please make that plan now to contact the rest of the team, whether that's something one person does or you split it up amongst yourselves. And reiterate the COVID-19 policies really for, beforehand, just know you're going to need to wear a mask and you can bring your own, and that we'll be wearing gloves on election day. Do what you can to reassure people, boost morale. Really, in all honesty, I felt more nervousness among our judges, and of course you guys were here in person a lot more before the PNP with the whole deal about people having to choose their political party, and were people going to be upset about that? And I think people know what the plan is here for election day, and as far as I can tell, people are feeling confident enough at this point. And then finally, remember there's no potlucks, so don't be planning any potlucks this time around. Supply pickup is going to be Saturday, August 8th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If none of your team can make that, remember we just need 1 of you, then let us know. We'll figure something else out. We are not having you come into the building. Early voting will be going on. We'll be processing all of those mail ballots in here, and so we just don't want extra individuals in the building. So that just means you're going to go to the alley of our office, and there's back by where the warehouse dock doors are. Someone will be there to greet you, they'll check you in, and they'll actually bring out your supplies. So we're going to have a drive-up service for that. And then, as it says, we'll be sending you home with some PPE equipment, so a couple bankers boxes worth, I believe, on that day. Excuse me, get a drink. All right, on the polling place layouts. So all of us are going to have to modify our layout in one way, shape, or form. Even if you've been at this place before, we're going to need social distance. So that means all stations, tables, voting booths, everything is 6 foot apart. And that means, if you have a 6 or an 8 foot table or whatever, you can't have 2 people at the per table for the poll book. You need 1 table per poll book. And in the other training, the online training, I mentioned this idea that if you have enough tables, you can double up on them, put them parallel to each other so that it might create a natural 6 foot barrier. You may or may not have enough tables to do that. So that's all site dependent. And some of you, can use whatever's left over to do that. But if not, you'll just mark the X on the floor, and that'll work fine as well. So everybody's got work to do, but the combined polling places have a little bit more thought to put into this. So I want everybody to be crystal clear on this. Hopefully this is clear, but it's really important. These are still 2 precincts, all right? So 2 tabulators, 2 automarks, 2 sets of forms. So, and that means you might have some duplicates of things. So, you don't need to, you can just use what you need. And then 1 shared poll book station and 1 shared team. Okay, so you're all serving voters from both of these precincts. One key component to making this work for you and for voters is to make it crystal clear where the voters from each respective precinct will go to get their ballot, because we need separate ballot stations. We will have these signs that you see on the screen, so orange and yellow signs that have the precinct number. So for example, if you think of a rectangular layout and there's a poll book station up front, for one voter, if they were in 7-1, in this case, they go to the left to get your ballot. If they were in 110, you'd say go to your right to get your ballot. Their precinct will be printed on their receipt that they get at the poll book station. It's really important that people not go to the wrong ballot station. We're going to need to look when they come to the ballot station that they came to the right table, and that'll be listed there as well. And we need our voting booths to have separation as well. Initially, I was thinking that we could have a combined voting area, but in order to do our hourly audits, we are going to need to have some separation there. And I'll talk about that in a couple slides. I'll come back to that idea, but we'll need our voting booths to have some separation as well. And right, these signs will go at the ballot station and the tabulators. A couple more notes on layout. We will need some tables at the entry and exit, which we don't typically have, for our supplies like hand sanitizer, the pens. At the exit, it'll be the dirty pens and the I voted stickers. And as far as where you put the exit station will go right when they're leaving the voting room, but your entry station might need to go at the entrance to the building. So what I mean is if people have to walk through a building and they might be lining up in a hallway or they have to walk a ways to get to the voting room, we want people to have a mask on when they get inside. So you might need to put that entry station towards the front of the building rather than right inside of the voting room. All right, Charles, I'm going to take a quick pause here. Any questions coming through that you want?
I, in fact, do have a question. It's a very important question, and it's for Tim. A judge is wondering, how do I know if I'm working at a combined site? And I know that information is coming from Tim.
I think Jeff addressed that earlier when he said if your assignment has 2 precincts listed, then you have 2 precincts. So if you see 10-1 and 10-2 in the name of your precinct, then you have those 2 precincts.
Right. And let us know if that's if we need any further help with that. What else we got, Charles?
All right, questions about layout in the room. Can we post the map of the room's layout at the door for voters to see as they come in? I think that's dependent on what your exact situation is.
Yeah, I would think that verbal communication would be more expedient in, directing people, but there's no harm in that if you want to put something up that shows, where they need to go. The only caveat is people don't really know their precincts typically. So if you said 110's over here and 18 is over there, that might not be that effective. But sure, anything you think might help make that clear is fine.
All right, and I'm getting a couple of different questions about that 70,000 figure you threw out. How does our requested and received absentee ballots for this primary compare to a normal primary in a presidential year?
Oh, it's off the charts. It doesn't compare in the least. And, a lot of those people, some number of those people have probably, like their interest was getting a ballot for November, and they just applied for that already and said, send me both ballots, because why not? So a good chunk of those probably won't come back, but no, I mean, this is totally unprecedented. So.
Okay. What else you got for us, Jeff?
All right. So the setup polling place on Monday is more important than ever. You might be in a new building that you're going to need to understand and figure out some of the layout things. So you're going to mark social distancing X's on the floor. That is something you probably want to do the day before. Since our tables are more spread out, you might need more extension cords, and we are sending, I know, at least an additional set, but that'd be good to find out on Monday. And you can use, we can pay you for this up to 4 hours cumulative split between whoever does that, one person for 4 hours or 4 people for 1. However, we don't want this to be limiting, so we want you to be able to do what you need to do. If you work more than that and need more time and pay, let us know. And I'll say, to put a point on it, for the layouts, when we're in a new building, we may, in many cases, we haven't necessarily laid out everything because a lot of that comes out during the course of the day. You start with an initial setup and you'll learn through the day what works the best. So we are trying to get you at least the dimensions of the room and where the electrical is, but you may well be building a layout from scratch, and so that's something that we need you to put some thought in before. Tim is trying his best to connect with everybody. He's connected with a number of people, but he's trying to consult with each polling place as far as that goes. Supplies notes. So we are not sending the A-frame with the "if you live in the blue line" sign and map. We weren't able to update those. Instead, we are sending ledger size maps of the 2 precincts that show the new polling places. And then just 2 odds and ends. We're sending air canisters out. Sometimes we need those to blow dust out of the scanner and the tabulator. So instead of having a PSJ have to come out for that, you'll have that. And you'll call us for instructions, but that'll be on site. And then our precinct support judges will have extra electrical with them as need be.
Jeff, can I pop up for just a sec?
Mm-hmm.
Got a couple of questions about combined precincts and pickup. Does one person have to pick up all the supplies for both precincts at combined sites? Can they work that out amongst themselves? How do we want to do that? This is new.
Yeah, I believe this won't be such a large amount of supplies that I think they should all fit in a single car fairly easily.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to split that up, that's no problem at all. Mm-hmm. But the expectation is that just one person will be coming to get it for one location. Anything else? Okay. So when you get to the polls, you are gonna sanitize your hands right away. We're not gonna wait till voters come. We'll start the day like that, and then apply your masks and your gloves. And let's talk about a couple of things with our PPE. The first is a bit of a change. So when the governor's order came out this past week about wearing a mask statewide in public places, indoors, here's some extra information that is a bit of a change from what we discussed in the online training. And this here in particular is about shields, wearing a shield. So, and this is, to be clear, wearing a shield without also wearing a mask. So based on the information and the directive in that document, before it was kind of like, well, you can choose to wear one or the other. Now the instruction is based on that guidance is don't wear a shield unless you need so for health reasons, okay? And we're not going to be policing that. That's just something you'll decide based on your situation. Or if you need to just wear a face mask in order to help a voter. So you may have read or know yourself that voters who rely on lip reading or individuals are having a really hard time. And we are sending one face shield to every polling place for that purpose, so that at least there'll be something there that somebody could put on and use to have that conversation with the voter. All right. So wear a shield unless you are unable to. Voters can also wear a face shield alone. And again, we're not asking judges or voters to prove that health need. We're asking you to follow the rules as you can. Gloves. We are sending these blue nitrile non-latex gloves. Most of them will be mediums, and then there'll be some larges and extra larges. We're sending about 6 pair per judge, and those will go out in the blue supply bag. So again, excuse me, you'll change those throughout the day, and you'll apply sanitizer directly to the gloves periodically as well. For masks, you have several options. You can bring your own. Any face covering meets the criteria. We're not saying this kind of covering works or this kind doesn't, so a face covering. We are also sending one N95 mask. I think it's a KN95 mask, so I don't think it's the actual 3M product, but it's the similar specs. We are sending one of those for each judge and then a cloth one as well. Take your pick. You can use one of ours. You can not use your own. It's up to you. For cleaning, you'll have these 80 count packages of alcohol wipes that kind of look like diaper wipes there. Average of 15 packs per polling place. Some will have more, some will have less. And this you're going to use for everything. So cleaning your pens and cleaning your voting booths. If the screens have been touched, and only if the screens have been touched, you can gently put it on the tabulator screen or on the poll book screen. There shouldn't be a lot of finger touching on the poll book screen because you use the stylus, but there are times when that happens. So this is your cleaning product. Please use it for everything. And I think I got the intervals to clean later. But just while I'm on it, we want to clean about every 10 minutes. That's assuming voter traffic, so there's nobody come through, there's nothing to clean. But when there is voter traffic, we want to do rounds every 10 minutes of surfaces that are high touch, get our pens back to the front, all of that, okay? For voters, we are sending these disposable face masks. We are sending enough as if to expect that 25% of voters won't wear one. I think that's exceedingly high, but we don't want to be caught off guard, and we plan that before the governor's order, which I think will increase compliance as well. For hand sanitizer, and this, you might get something different for the general, but for the primary, we're sending these 32-ounce spray bottles. So it's just like the liquid stuff in a pump, except, or the gel stuff in a pump, but this is just a liquid alcohol version versus a gel. So that's what you will sanitize your hands with, and the voters as well. And you'll have, I don't know how many, but you'll have a number of these bottles there. This is what would go with the entry and exit. And then we have this cardboard stand that the state has sent out for us to utilize. So we're going to send that along. It's just a little accessible cardboard foldable surface. You would actually assemble it if you decide to put it together and use it. Completely optional. If you have a setup that works without it, great. And if it'll benefit you, then do it. And we do not want those back. They're going to stay at the facility. There, I did have a slide on cleaning, and we covered that. And let me cover this topic, and then I will pause for questions. All right, so one of the big questions is how many people won't wear a mask, and what do you do if they refuse, okay? Here's our order of operations, and this is, again, changed since the training you did because of the governor's order. I will be sending all of these things that have been tweaked since the training out to everyone, but here's the story right now. If a voter refuses to wear a mask, we first, and depending on how strident they are, kind of soft sell them a little bit, remind them that it's to protect election workers, that you are all there, that you're encountering a lot of people. Won't you please just put this on just while you're in the room or in the building, and then you can take it off. So try to reason with them. If they refuse to do that, tell them, okay, well, we'll need to offer you curbside voting so that we don't risk exposing others, all right? We can't require them to do this. So legally, you know, if they say, no, I demand to go into that room and put my ballot in the box without a mask, we can't stand in their way, and we won't, okay? But we want to, rather than ask them, would you like us to do curbside? We're kind of going to tell them we're going to do curbside. This is because it is a health risk for others. So I think it's only fair that we make that the expectation. On the slide, it says, do what you need to do to keep everyone safe. You know, we've had cases where we've done curbside voting actually in the building, like somebody has come in maybe in a walker and they're tired, they might not make it all the way in the room, and we can bring a ballot out to them. This is a similar concept, so they don't have to literally leave the building, go get in their car and drive up, although they can. They also could just, we could step aside somewhere, let's kind of take them away from people so that they're not standing next to people without a mask, and administer it in an appropriate place, okay? If all of that doesn't work, that's coming up with the next slide. So our goal is to get the voter processed as quickly and safely as possible. We're not going to escalate. We're not going to be combative. And I think in some cases you might need to watch for disagreements among other voters standing in line. If there's a line and somebody's there not putting on a mask, well, the other voters might get into it with that person. They may not be happy too. So get that person, our goal is to just get them out of there as quickly as we can, whether that's through curbside, or if they absolutely refuse, we're going to bring them all the way into the polling place immediately, have them do their thing, and get out of there, okay? And that's what I have here. So if they absolutely refuse to do curbside, get them going, get them out of there. And then we do need to note it in the incident log, and this is kind of per the governor's order and how this works. This is actually the same thing as if a voter came in with campaign material that was on the ballot, and if they refuse to take it off, well, same way they can still vote, but we need to note it. So we're going to note the voter's name and their address. You'll get that from their check-in information. And then note that the voter refused to wear a mask and refused that curbside option. Okay. All right, I'm going to pause there. Charles, what do you got for me?
Oh, have I got questions for you? Okay, so let's start with pickup. I'm sorry, let's start with sanitation. When a voter's coming in, are we expected to spray their hands for them? Are we offering it to them? Can we offer them sanitizer? How do you want the mechanics of that to work?
This is a question I need to get an answer to.
Okay.
And somebody else had asked that too. So Charles or Tim, could you please note that for me?
That is noted. I got that.
Okay.
Okay, and and the question came up, why gloves?
Well, funny you should ask. We've debated this a lot internally. We thought that we were probably going to get it from all sides no matter what we did. If we didn't have gloves, there would be people who wouldn't feel safe with that. However, you may well know that gloves do not particularly offer anything special. I tried to make this clear in the training because I don't want people to have a false sense of security. We don't wear gloves at the office here. And we're sending them as a perception issue that it sends a message that we're taking it seriously. And also there are, I'm quite sure, some election judges who will be happy to have them. I'm well aware that they don't provide a lot of medical benefit. They can be effective. You need to take them off carefully, as I mentioned in the training, and you need to disinfect them regularly as well. Okay. Next.
Believe it or not, that's basically what I've got so far. I've got a few questions that I know you're going to cover later.
Okay.
So go for it.
Okay. So let's talk about social distancing at the poll book station. Here's where I see things right now. I think that handing over documents, whether it's a ballot or the registration document, the signature certificates for them to sign, I think that will be pretty straightforward. We talked about in the online training needing to get up, step back, step forward. I'm hopeful that for some of those documents, it'll be sufficient to really, arms are about 3 foot, thereabouts. And so you lean forward, kind of slide in the document, lean back, they lean forward, get it, and you can keep 6 foot pretty easily that way. Okay. Where that really won't be so feasible is when it comes to confirming information on the poll book. And remember, our current process is that pre-registered voters, they'll come in, give you their name and address verbally, and then after that, we're going to flip the screen around for them to look at. That's the part that I'm worried about because the text isn't that big and people just need to get close to that. Here's what we ask of you. We'd like you to try to make this work. and you have our full permission to stop doing that if it doesn't, okay? Because we're going to need to experiment. I mean, that could be you slide the pull book up a little bit and lean back. It could be more actually getting up and moving back. So I think this will be user tested in the field. I think you'll get a good sense of this pretty quickly during the day after the first batch of voters, how this is going to work. And we're going to be relying on your guidance for how well this works or doesn't work in the future. And we want you to put safety first. And if it's not making sense to do this, then you can drop that part, no problem. Okay. For brand new judges, please don't assign them to the poll books. I'd actually love it if they could get some on-the-job training, but that might be difficult as well because you'd have to have somebody 6 foot back supervising them. If you're able to work that out, fine. But know that they've never done a poll book, and I do not want them to do on-the-job training on their own in an election. So that just doesn't make any sense. They did get training on it where they saw the screens and they were taught about registration, but they've never touched one in their lives. So please don't assign them to poll books, barring an extraordinary circumstance. And if you figure out a way to get them some exposure while maintaining social distance, great, because we do want them to learn it. All right, on to curbside voting. We may see an increase in curbside voting due to the pandemic, people who don't want to come into the building. I would say that the limiting factor for curbside voting continues to be the fact that most people don't know about it. And we don't hide curbside voting, it's on our website, but it's not that well known out in the community. However, we could see an increase. And so here's what we want to do just so we're ready. We've assigned you an extra 2 judges just with this in mind. We want you to have them start the day basically as greeters out where they can see where somebody might pull up. And that might be far from the voting room or just outside of it, depending on your site. Now, you know that to do curbside voting, we need party balance. So if you're able to assign those people as party balance judges, you're set and they can just administer it when needed. If you can't do that because you want that other party balance person or persons doing other things, that's fine. You'll put any judges out there and then they can come in and get whoever's needed to actually administer when it happens. Okay, so that's the thinking there. They're just going to be greeters who are kind of on curbside duty. We sent you an extra poll book just for this purpose. So have that set up and set aside. It shouldn't be used with the rest of the station, so it should be ready for curbside. But with all this, I'll say if 2 p.m. comes around and there's been little or relatively no curbside voting, you can absolutely repurpose those judges if you need to, and that poll book as well. So let's be ready, and then we'll see what happens. We will continue to ask for your ballot counts, your tabulator counts at 12 and 5. You remember we send a link, and I'll send this in advance, but also text it to you when it's time, where you just go in and report your numbers. I'm also adding to this, thanks to Charles's good idea here, a curbside voting count. This is just an estimate, so you don't need to tally this up. Let us know about how many people have been voting curbside, and basically, we just want to know if it's a lot, a little, or none at all. In your combined polling places, you will have 2 incident logs, right? 2 of everything, 2 documentations. So how do you manage that? Well, if something happens that's not precinct specific, it can go on either, right? So there's campaigners out in front that we had to chase away. All right, that can go in either, doesn't matter. And then just put in whatever, or the media comment can go in either. If it's something precinct specific, like voter X from precinct Y, put it in precinct Y incident log. Okay, so you don't have to duplicate everything. Okay, now I'm going to talk about hourly audits in a combined polling place. So everybody remember, we every hour we need to make sure that our ballot receipt count matches up with our tabulator count. And then we do that with that piece of paper where you go to the ballot station, write down the count. You go to the tabulator, write down the number. And then the third number is how many people have a ballot, so they've given us a receipt, but they haven't yet put it in the machine. And, the tabulator count plus the ballots that are still waiting to be voted should equal the ballot receipts we have. Now, in a combined polling place, that will be tricky, if not impossible, if you have a combined voting booth area, because you won't know the ballots that are out there if they're from precinct A or precinct B. Okay, so this is one of the reasons, in addition to just making sure voters get the right ballot, that we need to have separation between the ballot stations, the tabulators, and the voting booths of the two precincts. At the very least, if your space is such that you can't do that very well, certainly put them back to back and have one set facing this way and one set facing the other way. More than ever, you'll want to kind of do your audit at a time when there's nobody there or very few, so that lessens this, and a voter could walk across the room to the other set of voting booths, so it's not fail proof, but do whatever you can to make that less complicated than it needs to be, and I think that'll be helpful.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, Charles.
One thing that's coming up, and this would answer a number of the questions we're getting actually.
Okay.
You, in your individual precincts, are going to do things a little differently in spots. You're going to find your own path, and you can see Jeff nodding. Mm-hmm. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear, how does this work for you? What works? Did you come up with a trick we want to teach everyone else? Did you find a new idea? We really, more than ever, we really need all that feedback after the election, so please.
Yep. Anything else?
The only thing that you haven't covered so far is, where did you get that cool shirt someone wants?
All right. This is from when I worked for the state. So yes, I actually, we have those shirts that they can order though. And the due date is July 31st. We have some election shirts that you should have gotten an email that you can order. And I think one of them says I will vote. I can't remember. So Tim, if you have that link nearby, you can put it in the chat. That'd be great. Yeah, don't worry. All right. We normally have the sheet where people can go and sign up to be an election judge. Some of these I believe were already packed, but we decided that once we thought about it after that, let's just skip putting these out. That's just another place where people can touch a pen that then needs to be cleaned or touch on the table, whatever. We're just skipping that. Okay, so if you are sent with those, you can just set them aside. We're not going to put those out this time. On to absentee ballots. Well, we have all of these people voting by mail, and I am pretty sure, because we see it already, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see more people than usual, hopefully still a small number, come to the polling place with a ballot, hoping they can vote it or they can drop it off or something like that. And we had questions just about this topic, were some of the most common after people took the online training. We have to be super, super vigilant on this. If your greeters are really green, you have to tell them explicitly to watch out for this, because a nice friendly person is going to smile and take their ballot if they don't know better, right? A nice friendly greeter, and we don't want them to do that. So this is a big theme. Voters have some new options, whereas normally, so two of their options are the same as before. They can drop it off here by 3 p.m. or at Hennepin County, or you can issue them a new ballot in the polling place. But they have a third option now for the primary and potentially for the general, whereby they can put it in the mail on election day in the postal mail, as long as it is postmarked that day and then gets here by Thursday to our office. So you can't guarantee it's going to arrive within those 2 days. I think most of the time it will, certainly if they're mailing it within the city, but that is another option for them. Okay. If somebody comes with an absentee ballot, call us. We want to track that. We don't have a designated place to put those, and so because we don't want them there, and we'll talk. Give us a call at headquarters. We'll talk about what you should do. Driver's licenses that expired since March 13th are still valid. So that's kind of when state government shut down with COVID. So the governor has an order that's in effect generally for these licenses that would also apply to using these as election day registration documents. If it expired on March 12th, I'm sorry, you're out of luck, although they can use that with the current bill, obviously. But if it expired on March 13th through August 11th, you're still good. It's considered valid, even if the date has passed. Stay tuned for November. I don't know when this expires. I think it does expire before November, and maybe there'll be a new order or maybe not. So we'll keep you in the loop for that on the next election. All right, election night drop-off. We have the same two sites, Bethel Church, kind of in south central Minneapolis, and then 980 East Hennepin here, our main office. That'll be listed on your items to return checklist. A couple of new things. You can drive separately because we don't want people in the same vehicle with COVID. That is legally allowed under law as long as all the ballots are sealed, which they will be. If you're in a combined polling place where you have one head and two assistants, we just need two of the three to come to drop off. We don't need all three of you, so two is enough, although we love you anyway. What you'll do is you'll pull up and you'll check in. We'll have somebody in the parking lot and they'll check you in, mark that you're here, and then we'll text you when it's time, when you're up, because we want to limit the number of people waiting in line and mingling and all that, okay? So that's how we're going to handle drop off. Post-primary review. You know, as Charles just said, we're going to learn so much at the primary in terms of the COVID procedures, in terms of these new sites and how they work and what we need, okay? So we need to get a lot of that information back from you pretty quickly. And we haven't finalized this. I think what we'll probably do is send you out some kind of survey asking about layout or supplies or the procedures and how they worked or didn't work. And we want to gather that information so that we can do a post-primary review, hopefully in late August, early September, where we can tell you these will be the changes based on your feedback for the November general. We're legally required to do these post-primary reviews. The end of the year one we just do because we want to do it and get your feedback that way. But we will host these normally. You know, if you've been to one, it's in person, of course. We will have to do some kind of virtual meeting for that as well. So stay tuned for that. I think we are at the end. So what I'd like to do, we got 15 minutes. We don't need to spend more time, but I imagine there's some questions out there. So Charles, what do you got?
Funny you should ask. One of the questions that just came in moments ago, will sites that are doubled now also be doubled in November? I would assume so.
Yep, barring anything unforeseen, the sites and the setup and the combined locations will be the same on election day. Yep, okay. In November. Mm-hmm. So
next question. Several people arrived late in class, not their fault. Some people, Teams is not always easy to get into, we're learning. Jeff and I are learning a lot this year, folks. So thank you for your patience.
We love it.
So the question for you, Jeff, can you explain to them how they'll be able to view this presentation afterwards?
Yes, I will be putting it on YouTube. So this is the version that we're recording. I'm going to be putting it on YouTube later today, and you'll be able to watch it just like a regular YouTube video. So I'll send people a link to that.
So you're going to be a YouTube star? Is that what this is all about?
Pretty much.
Sounds cool. I am looking, and I'm just taking a last share. Several people are asking, and Tim's trying to answer all your questions, so please give him a moment. For markups and maps of your polling sites, we've revised a lot of them. This has been something they've worked hard on, so please give us a chance. We're pulling that together for you. Yes, we can process. Jeff, did you talk about if in a combined site they have to have separate trips in, or can one team bring everything for both precincts?
Come again, I don't follow.
I'm in a combined polling place and I have to return everything to the warehouse at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I can bring everything from both sites in one team?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. as you check it, yeah, you'll just come in, we'll take care of the one set of documents and then move on to the next. That's right.
Wonderful. And now I've got a question about ventilation. Every space is different. Every room has different geometry, and Tim will have more details on this. But one of our judges is asking about, we don't have windows. How do we get fresh air regularly? And that's going to be something I think you can contact Tim's team, but a lot of you are just going to have to be creative. I mean, I, on the one hand, hate saying that, but on the other hand, Jeff and I believe in you guys.
Yeah. A couple notes we've been asked. Can I bring a personal fan? Of course, yes, we did ask this question of the Department of Health in terms of, like, are there any issues with COVID that we should know about this? Because as you probably know, ventilation is good. All they said was that if you have a fan, it shouldn't be blowing from like one person's face directly into somebody else, right? Like, you don't blow the particles and the germs from you onto somebody else. So having a fan somewhere in the room where it's not blowing directly on somebody, but it's helping to move the air. As you probably know, being outdoors, wind, circulation helps disperse particles, and so that can be protective. So yes, that's, as Charles said, there's, we don't necessarily have any special information or tricks in terms of your building is what it is, but bringing fans are okay as long as you set that up kind of how I just talked about.
Yeah. And I know we're dealing with this directly with someone, but if you're trying to do setup on Monday night, is it only the heads and assistants who can come? Or if you have team members, specifically poll book specialists, who might be available, can they come along as well?
Please invite them all. The limiting factor there is people's availability. And then, we have our standard thing is we have 4 hours of work to pay for. I'll say there's absolutely no limit to, if a bunch of people want to spend their time doing that and aren't worried about the pay, great, that's awesome. Not everybody can or wants to do that. So, but absolutely others can come. We encourage that. Remember, the poll books now, you can't set up the iPad itself, but you can set up the stands and the printers. You can really get, pretty much everything set up short of your tabulator and your poll books and your AutoMarks. So yes,
you can save yourself a lot of stress. You can save yourself, yeah. And we're moving into a lot of bigger rooms this time, more gymnasiums and so forth, especially the combined sites. And there's a concern about the cradle point. And some people are afraid it won't have enough range to cover the entire space. I'm pretty sure it does. Can you speak to details on that?
Yes. We don't expect issues. You never expect problems, but if there are any, let us know. These buildings aren't so different than many of the buildings we're in. Even if it's a new building, we're certainly in a number of large buildings currently. So we're not anticipating that. We'll see what happens, but I wouldn't stress about that until you need to stress about that.
And of course, where do I go for drop off? You'll have a map with you that we send out. And if my understanding is if they didn't, nobody's moving drop off sites. The precincts are still going to the same place at the end of the night. Yes.
With one or two exceptions, where one combined kind of on the border where one was going one place and one was going another.
Okay.
But by and large, we've not moved, we've not moved your drop off if we didn't have to. So if you're far in the south of the city, you're definitely, southwest, you're going to probably going to Bethel. And if you're kind of more north, northeast, northwest, you're going to our office. But this is something I need to do. I'll send you out a list that has everybody's assignment. Cool.
I want to thank everyone for their patience. This has been quite a year, and it's not over yet. And you folks are sticking to it, and you're being flexible, and you're being creative, and that's what it's going to take. It's what we need. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So you'll get more communication from me about last minute things. That we got pickup on the 28th. Is that right? The 8th. Excuse me, the 8th. And really, other than that, let us know. You'll be off and running with your team list on Wednesday. And one thing on that, sorry, I should add, if you call anybody and they say that they're dropping out, don't assume that they've told us. They may think, oh, I told the head judge. Now everybody knows. So make sure that we're getting that, or check that they've told us. Whatever you need to do to make sure that we also get that information. But again, thank you very much. Let's follow up offline if you have other questions or things. And thank you and good luck.